Hi, this is Brian. Welcome to Philosopher's Notes TV. Today we've got The Amazing Power of Deliberate Intent by Esther and Jerry Hicks. This is, obviously we've got the 6-page PDF, one of 100 notes. We've got 3 notes in the collection on Esther and Jerry Hicks's work. We've got this one, we've got Ask and It Is Given, and we've got Money and the Law of Attraction. All awesome books. I joke that I used to get a little freaked out, and I still am a little, by the fact that they channel this wisdom. But you know what? Just amazing stuff. I've gotten so much out of it, and I'm just excited to integrate it into my life and to share the ideas that I'm passionate about. So we'll go ahead and jump in on this one. So the idea here is we want to be deliberate creators versus people who create by default. So there's deliberate creation, then there's creating by default. When we create deliberately, essentially, we have a vision of what we want to see. We have a clear intention. And very importantly, we're managing our energy as we're moving toward that outcome, that goal, that intention. And we're paying attention to just how much we're connected to the divine, to the God force within us. And we can tell how connected we are by our emotions. We're going to talk about emotional guidance systems and stuff like that, but that's really the essence of their work. Holding this vision, trusting, and then measuring how we're doing essentially by this moment, this moment, this moment, and essentially how we're feeling, which is going to dictate and reveal how connected we are to our highest selves, which is the most important thing we can do, is to connect to and express that highest within us moment to moment to moment. And we know we're there when we feel exuberant joy, love, appreciation, empowerment, all the top emotions on their emotional guidance scale that we talk about in the other episodes. So that's the basic context. First big idea here is they say life on planet Earth rocks. They say, contrary to what many people on Earth think, life on planet Earth is at its all-time best and it's getting better. Huge idea. So a lot of people look at the world and they just see the negative. And clearly there are challenges in our world. There always have been, and I think there always will be. But it's, I think, inappropriate to think that our world isn't more extraordinary than it's ever been in every sense. Even just from a personal perspective, we enjoy more luxuries today than even the greatest kings from 100 or 200 years ago, and certainly 1,000 or 2,000 years ago. They never could have imagined watching this recording. It's surreal. I mean, it's bizarre science fiction, the stuff that we can do. Talk into a piece of plastic and immediately communicate with someone on the other side of the planet. Hop into a car and travel at speeds of 60, 75 plus miles an hour. Get into a plane, go a couple miles, 3 miles above the ground, and then fly at 600 miles an hour. I mean, this is absurd stuff. 250, certainly 1,000 years ago, right? I mean, this is just amazing. Yet we take it almost all for granted. And in the note, I talk about this comedian who was on Conan O'Brien's show, talking about the fact that everything's amazing and nobody's happy. Google it if you haven't watched it yet. Hilarious. And he says we should make it illegal to complain when we're on an airplane. It's so extraordinary that we should be sitting up in our chair in the air saying, oh my God, I'm in a chair in the air the entire trip. We forget the fact that it wasn't too long ago, a few generations ago, families would go from New York to LA not in 5 or 6 hours, but in years. It would take all kinds of time, and you'd have people die on the trip. You'd have people be born on the trip. And he says you'd wind up with an entirely different group of people at the end of the trip than you started with. And we get on a plane, 5, 6 hours later we're there. And it's just amazing stuff. So I go off on that, but watch the video. It's amazing. Life on planet Earth is amazing and it's getting better. Pay attention to all the things that are extraordinary. As that type of human being, you can do more to alleviate the things that are still challenging in our world. So big idea there. Life is great. Next big idea, the concept of, as I mentioned, they call it vibrational compatibility between our desires and our beliefs, right? So if we have strong desires and we don't believe we can achieve what it is we want to achieve, we're going to feel bad. And the stronger our desires are and the less we feel we're going to achieve it, the worse we're going to feel. Contrarily, if we have really strong desires and we really believe we're going to achieve those, we're going to feel great. I talk about in the note that a lot of times we get confused, and just because sometimes when we have strong desires that we don't think we're going to be able to achieve, and then we become attached, we become disillusioned, then we say we need to get rid of all desires. It's the desire that's the root of the suffering. It's not the desire. It's the attachment, and it's the belief that we can't have them, and then the kind of clinging to that desired outcome that we don't think we're going to have, and then the failure to appreciate what we have right now that creates suffering. We talk about it some more in the note. This balance of having desires we're really excited about and the belief that we can go out and have them. Really, really powerful stuff. Now, most people don't create deliberately. They create by default, and they go off on that. The difference is one group will have, the deliberate creators will have that ideal outcome we talked about, and they'll manage their energy in pursuit of that outcome, loving each moment in the process, versus simply responding to whatever comes at them. And this is echoed throughout all of the literature. Stephen Covey talks about it as being proactive rather than reactive, right? Creating by default is reacting. Deliberately creating is being proactive. We talk about it with creator and victim. Just a few episodes ago, we did the power of TED, the victim versus creator mentality. Really cool idea, really cool book. Then we've got internal versus external locus of control. Do I think I'm in control, or do I think I'm a victim to my environment? Psychologists describe it as internal versus external locus of control. We talk about it here and more. So one of the big things we mentioned was this idea of managing our energy and seeing how, whether or not we're connected to our highest selves. They describe that brilliantly as our emotional guidance system. So our emotions are essentially telling us how connected we are to our highest selves. And we know this by whether we're feeling despair, disempowerment, rage, depression, all these negative energies. Well, you know you're unplugged from source. That's the lowest of their emotional guidance system, right? Then we've got the top, which is joy, love, appreciation, empowerment, knowing, and freedom. Those are their 6 top emotional states, right? Very different from depression, disillusionment, rage, all these negative, shame, etc. So what we want to do is see where we are on this scale, and we're going to know just how connected we are to source by whether we're feeling these kinds of emotions or these kinds of emotions. And again, their books are all about helping us connect more consistently to that highest source. But we got to start by seeing, wow, our emotions are telling us just how connected we are. And then they say the sooner you notice you aren't connected, and the sooner you can correct course and get back on, the better. All teachers talk about that. Tolle, Pema Chodron, we mention often. Don't let it grow. When you see you're off and you're starting to get feisty, do something that you know makes you feel better. Use one of the cognitive behavioral strategies we talk about. Build your optimism in certain ways. Go exercise. Go play with your little baby. Whatever you got to do to feel better and get out of that groove. They have a great idea here called the Book of Positive Aspects. When you're feeling something negative, you don't need to feel perfect like that. They say just sit down and see if you can see the positive aspects of a situation. So write down in the note I ask you, write down what you're stressed about, and then write down all the things you can see that are positive about it. That's a very simple thing to do, but it's huge. Reorients your perspective in a huge way. Another big idea, and the final one, is an idea that we want to start with something easy. Too often we get into this stuff and we want to go tackle the hardest things we possibly can imagine. They say start with something easy, right? Don't go to your most challenging relationship and try to apply the stuff that you're learning. Start with the most simple stuff and then grow from there. We're going to talk about that in the next episode too, when we do Krishnamurti. But that's a quick look at the amazing power of deliberate intent, emotional guidance systems, checking in, seeing how connected we are, holding the intent, balancing our energy, all that good stuff. Hope you dug it. Look forward to sharing more with you soon. As always, have an awesome day. See you.